Yo, what's going on? It's your boy Luke Man, and today I've got an exciting video for you because we're talking about alternate picking. Now, this is a big deal for a lot of people. A lot of people have been trying to sync their hands, use a little bit of that hand synchronization tactics, right? When I talk to people online, that's the biggest thing that comes up. So I'm trying to sync together my left and my right hand. So anyway, I should mention that I have a free course actually called Alternate Picking Mastery. I've been spending a lot of time, 5 years actually, coaching guitar players full-time on techniques such as alternate picking, among other things, improvisation, and some basic theoretical knowledge that comes along with playing the guitar. So if you want a free course where I cover everything, all the pitfalls that my clients have gone through, all the things that they've found really effective in one convenient spot, check that out. There's a link to it in the description. But yeah, I want to talk about a couple cool licks you can use for your alternate picking. So once you have the basics where you are in fact playing up and down consistently, that's a big thing. A lot of people, they think they're playing consistently alternate picking, but they're not. So once we get over this problem, you know, if you're starting on a downstroke on the D string, you're playing 3 notes, you're going to start on an upstroke on the next string. So if you find that you're playing on a downstroke when you're changing strings, you're not alternate picking, which is cool. You know, you can go about picking in a variety of different ways, but if you want to alternate pick, that's one thing. That's one way. It's up and down, always. I want problems, always. Okay? So that lick that I just played, mind you, I am down a half step, so if you want to tune to me, that's your note. But I'm playing 11, 12, 14 on the D string, just to the 11th fret of the G string. And then working my way back down the D string, 14, 12, 11. So that's the whole lick. It's a sextuplet lick. My philosophy on guitar playing is that everything's a pattern. So you can simply, once you learn a pattern like that, just plug it in to a 3-note per string scale and do it all over the neck. So let's see, I think I was in B minor just there. Yeah. So if I know all my B minor shapes, then I can just plug in that pattern across the whole neck, and like you saw me, even climb it up to the next string as well. So yeah, the pattern, again, if you're not sure by the notes that I picked out, it's just going to be ascending 4 notes. So if we start here, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then working your way back down, 3, 2, 1. So once you have that really dialed in and you know for certain that you're doing actual alternate picking, I recommend starting on an upstroke too, which is a little bit more tricky. Now the thing about starting on an upstroke instead of a downstroke is I want you to do this. Think about the first note and then don't think about any notes after that. A lot of people freak out when we start on an upstroke rather than a downstroke, or they get somewhere in a lick where they start to think about their right hand, and from there it's all over. It's all uphill, as in it's all bad. So it's really important that instead you remember, okay, I alternate pick all the time starting on a downstroke, which means that with different permutations and randomizations of notes, I'm playing up and down, you know. It shouldn't be any different to also just start on that up, you know, but it is. Why is that? Well, it's all in our head, you know, so that's why it's really important to think about the left hand when you play licks like that and not overcompensate with your right hand. You start to overcompensate with your right hand, gonna have a bad time. Well, what it is that you start to overshoot the mark, you try a little bit harder, and you put tension into your hand, and you play in a way that wouldn't be optimal to play as fast as possible, you know. So try to keep that tension as low as possible and just work your way through the run. So that's what I'm doing just there. Now, to demonstrate real quick what this would look like in a couple of different shapes of B minor, it's gonna look like this. All right, so that's just kind of like applying a sextuplet lick, ascending. And that's the cool thing. Like I said, it's just a pattern, so you can plug it into any scale you like. As a matter of fact, if you don't think the major scale or the minor scale is that cool, maybe try the melodic minor scale. Okay, so I've been exposed. I don't know the melodic minor scale apparently. All right, so that's a little tidbit. I'll share a little side note from practicing. It's like, if you go through a lick and you find that you can't play it, go back and figure it out, you know? So what I found there, this melodic minor scale, I was trying to shift up a whole step with my pointer finger. I always kind of lead to the next string with my pointer finger. So right there, I'm trying to lead to the B string with my pointer finger, but it wasn't registering, you know? It wasn't going, so I was like, all right, my middle finger is right there anyway. I'm just going to use my middle finger for that particular note. Because I'm just getting to that note and then going straight back to the G string. And then I shift the second time. And, you know, it worked out. So I'm not telling you that so that you understand how awesome I am. Of course, it probably is clear. But rather so that when you're practicing, especially if you're improvising something, and you find a lick or you can hear kind of the kernel of a lick in your head, and you're like, oh man, that was cool. Like, I know if I sat there and workshopped that and kind of like tried some different things with it, it could be really sick, and then it might even end up being one of those muscle memory licks that becomes part of your style, you know? So don't pass that up because you're lazy. All right, and that comes across to me as common sense, but like a lot of people do not do that. So that's why I wanted to share. Okay, so now we got this basic lick. I've been playing the same sextuplet lick this whole time. I want to tell you what's going to come up is that you're going to have a hard time getting through the string and going back to the previous string. So in practice, that's going to look like getting across the D string, jumping to the G string, and then going back to the D string immediately for that little string change. So what I really recommend doing is isolating just that string change. And I'll even put a click on somewhere around get. So I'm trying to demonstrate playing like 16th notes with just those two notes. Only that string change, only that string switch. Do it both with starting on downstroke and starting on upstroke. So you're practicing both inside picking. If this neck and my arm is a string, inside picking would be like this. And outside picking. No, outside picking by default is going to be a little bit easier. It's going to be a little bit more accurate because you don't have to worry about going past this and not hitting this string on the way back to hit your B string, you know, considering this is your high E string. You know, same thing when you pass the B string, you have to worry now about hitting the B string on your way back to the E string versus outside picking. You don't have that problem so much because it's not like you're going to jump from the E string and then like, oh, all the way to the G string and then hit the B string. It's probably unlikely. So by default, you might find this a little bit easier. So click, 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 click. I recommend working on that. You're going to find if you try to do that with your right hand alone, it's going to be very difficult. Even if you just isolate your right hand and you don't use your left hand at all, yeah, it's going to be really difficult. So try doing just hammer-ons with your left hand. And then add the right hand as well, both starting on a downstroke and starting on an upstroke. Okay, so that's what's going to come up in practice with this Paul Gilbert lick. That's what you're going to find is difficult. Now, another thing that you can do to iron out your playing, because you still might have some issues, is you can try playing mostly legato, but you're still going to pick the first note of each string. So you're still going to pick the string skips or string switches. Right? So the picking pattern for that is super simple. It's going to be like G, D, G, D, G, D. If you start on the G string, super simple, right? Do that both down and up. Now what you'll find is like perhaps one of the notes or a lot of the notes aren't sounding quite as clear, quite as prominent as you would like them to. And it's important to develop that left hand, and that also needs work with the metronome. Now the metronome should climb steadily. You should be bringing it up. I mean, if you're using triplets to count these sextuplet licks, which is totally doable, you should be bringing it up like 5 beats per minute, every 2 minutes tops. You know, make sure to take breaks, drop your hands, and let blood flow back into them. I'm not sure that that's actually what happens, but maybe the lactic acid releases from them in that time. Or you just bring oxygen-rich nutrients to your muscle fibers. Yeah, any or all of those little recovery phases you need to undergo in order to get back to peak performance. Sometimes people think, oh, I just can't play faster. Little do they know they just had to take a break for 30 seconds. So keep that in mind. Anyway, your exercise is this, right? So your exercise is not all that, right? I got a little overzealous, but you know, just having a good time here. You gotta do the first picking lick I played, also these hammer-ons. Also try to pick those. Starting on an upstroke and a downstroke. Do the other exercise both starting on upstroke, starting on a downstroke, and then also picking only the first note of each string. Just figure out where your left hand's at, if it's even ready to be playing as fast as you think it is. Anyway, that's what I got for you today. My name is Luke Mann, and I've been helping people a lot with alternate picking specifically, so I have this cool free course on that, which is very catered to specifically alternate picking. I went through everything, you know, all the epiphanies my clients had and all the stuff I did myself for, you know, the best practices to get my guitar playing in tippity top shape to go play with bands and what have you. And people have found it to be really helpful so far. So it's free. There's a link for it in the description. But yeah, if you want to see me on your feed more, give me a like and or comment and or subscribe. If you want to see another video, you can click here. But enjoy the rest of your day. Rock and roll. Peace.